What's the difference between Democrat and Republican-run cities when it comes to social justice protests? We're going to talk about that on today's Hot Zone.
This is the Hot Zone. Engaging with the news in a whole new way, international war correspondent Chuck Holton brings insight into areas of crisis and lets you help those affected.
Hey folks, Chuck Holton here. I just returned from Louisiana where I was covering the hurricane, but I also got a chance to interview Josh Guillory, who is the mayor-president of Lafayette, Louisiana. And Josh is a Republican. And so there are some real similarities between Lafayette and Kenosha, Wisconsin, in that in the last several weeks there have been officer-involved shootings of a black man. In the case of Lafayette, there was a man with a knife who was trying to get into a gas station filled with people and was clearly intent on harming them. And they tried to tase him. They tried to get him, but he got away from them. And so they ended up shooting and killing the man. Justified shoot from everything we know now. And then, of course, you have what happened in Kenosha, Wisconsin, where a black man fought with police. They tried to tase him. It didn't work out. He had a weapon. Turned out to be a knife as well. And again, another shoot that from all signs that we can tell right now is going to end up being a righteous shoot, going to end up being justified. Because you don't get to fight with the cops, okay? Like you fight with the cops, you're going to get shot. That's how it works. Don't fight with the cops and you'll be fine. There is no possible scenario where fighting with the cops is a good idea. It's just not. Okay. So here's the difference. Kenosha, Wisconsin burned to the ground, practically. They've had nightly violent riots and protests. They've had people killed. Kyle Rittenhouse, in that whole situation, very, very bad. On the other hand, in Lafayette, Louisiana, things have gone pretty well. They've had some nonviolent protesting. They put up a little memorial at the gas station where this guy was killed. There have been some people calling for the mayor to be fired or to resign, but there has not been much in the way of any violence or rioting or anything like that. So what's the difference? That's what I wanted to know when I interviewed the mayor-president, Josh Guillory. So I just want to play for you, unedited, his entire interview, at least the part of his interview where we talked about what's different with Lafayette and why things are not going so badly there. Check it out.
So I've spent approximately 8 years in the Army National Guard and active duty Army, and that is both as an enlisted man and then as an officer. And I feel like that training has helped me in planning. You know, you don't know everything, but you got to surround yourself around good people that can overcompensate my many deficiencies. And but that training has helped us in these situations.
Right, and it helps you understand the first responders a little better, I'd say. What they're kind of things. Their mindset. I'd say so. It's hurricane culture,
Yeah, I would say that would help relating to the first responders. But our first responders are very unique. In the military, I only had real rounds in my magazine when I went to the range and when I was in Iraq. These guys have, it's a real world mission every single day. Take our patrol officers, they pull, whether it's a hurricane or not, and they have to respond. They can sometimes be in some sketchy situations, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, pulling somebody over, tinted windows, you don't know what's behind that door, and they're just hoping to go back to their family after their mission when they're done. But so while it makes me feel better to think I can relate to them, it's their fight is a little unique, and it's something that we can all be thankful for sure.
That's something that we're seeing a lot around the country now, as cops have to do their jobs, have to try to go home to their families at the end of the shift. In so doing, they find themselves thrown under the bus by city leaders.
Yeah, and
I noticed that's different here. Tell me why.
And it's sad to hear that across the country. We can't control that, but my number one job in regards to law enforcement is to make sure that I have their back, and make sure that they have the resources they need to successfully complete their mission, make sure that I'm doing everything that I can to know that they're safe, that they're adequately trained, and that they have the support that they need both on duty and off duty.
Mm-hmm. And so just recently we had this incident where there was a guy that had a knife that got shot, and we haven't seen Acadiana burning down after that happened. What's different between here and Kenosha, Wisconsin, or Milwaukee, or places like that?
I believe the number one thing that separates Lafayette from maybe other communities that are experiencing those unfortunate situations is unity of command. And we know that our fire department, they know that they have the administration support, vice versa. Same thing with the police department. And whether it's our chief of police, chief of fire, or sheriff, and this administration, we are committed to not giving up a single inch of our city or our parish, and we're not going to do that. And what's very disappointing in our country, we're seeing this here locally, most of the, I guess, above the or below the belt let's say agitation is from outsiders. Our local community, we want them to be vocal. We want them to exercise their First Amendment rights. Many people died for. Many law enforcement officers wear the badge to protect every single day. And but there's a line, and when you start threatening life or property or impeding traffic, we won't tolerate that in Lafayette.
And so, how has that manifested itself in the days since this last incident?
I'm not sure if I understand your question.
There have been some protests.
Yeah.
There's been very little amount of criminal activity. So I'm trying to get you to tell me that.
Yeah, no, and I got to be careful because that particular situation is still under investigation too. So we don't have all the facts. I mean, we genuinely do not have all the facts laid out. But I can tell you what I do know is that our community always grieves when we lose someone, and when the facts develop and they're communicated to the public, that'll be one thing. But one fact that we do know is that a mother lost a son, and that a community lost a member of its community, citizen of this community. And that's always sad and tragic. But I also know this. It's very easy to put an Instagram video in slow motion and critique it as an armchair quarterback and analyze every single split screen. But our officers, what I do know, acted very courageously with empathy, and there was escalation of force. There was attempts to de-escalate the situation, and I do believe in the process. I trust in the process. And
okay, so that wasn't what I was asking.
All right, good. I was just trying to make sure I didn't say that. I didn't need to say that.
You didn't need to go there.
All right, good.
What I was trying to get you to do is just describe,
all right,
just from an objective standpoint, what has happened. How has the community response manifested itself since that happened?
All right.
In Kenosha last night, we saw people burning I don't know what they were, garbage trucks or something, burning buildings, looting, pillaging. We haven't seen that here. What have we seen?
Well, we've seen.
You're talking to people who don't live here, who don't know anything about this.
So in Lafayette, you saw local members of our community peacefully protesting. Then you have these outside groups, Antifa and other groups that come in and infiltrate our local community and agitate the situation. But if you think locally, our community is a safe community. We don't tolerate burning down buildings and looting and all that stuff. Yeah, you'll have a few outliers, and our first responders will handle that situation appropriately with the full support of this administration. And I think that's key. Look, our law enforcement officers, they want to do their job. And again, the administration, my role in that job is to make sure that I allow them to do that job and protect them and make sure they have a safe environment, on duty and off duty. But our community is not going to tolerate stopping traffic, impeding traffic, creating terror in our community. That is unacceptable, and there is zero negotiating with that.
Well, that's kind of what I was getting at, and this is the contrast between what we're seeing here and what we're seeing elsewhere, is that when you have unity of command, when the leadership is for the rule of law and not actively encouraging law breaking.
Yeah.
I mean, I was in Portland and stood about this far from Ted Wheeler as he was watching. He's the chief. He's the police commissioner in Portland. He was standing there watching felonies happen all around him. And not only allowed it, but told those guys, I'm with you, I'm here with you, and waited until he got tear gassed and got the photo op before he moved out. It didn't help them hate him any less, they still hate him. But and that's the difference, is that while you support peaceful protests, you're not supporting, encouraging, facilitating illegal, felonious conduct.
That's correct. We support the right to peacefully protest. We do not support terrorism. And quite frankly, that is domestic terrorism. When you needlessly and unjustifiably create terror in a community unlawfully, that is domestic terrorism. And it may be a small dose of it, but that is what it is. It's civil unrest, and it's not needed. But as elected officials, we have a duty, especially in the executive branch. We have a duty to protect life and property and quality of life. Again, many men and women have died for the right to peacefully assemble, the right to peacefully protest, freedom of speech, and that's a great thing. It's a beautiful thing. And we have first responders that defend that right every day here, boots on ground in our community. But there is a line, as Oliver Wendell Holmes said, no right is absolute. Well, you cross that line when you start creating terror in our community. You cross that line when you start looting. You cross that line when you start impeding traffic. I mean, not only is it unlawful and wrong, it's ridiculous. I mean, this is interstates that come through our city, but we won't tolerate it here.
And it's counterproductive. I mean, it's certainly not advancing black lives in any way, shape, or form to go burn down a mall or something.
No. Many black lives are negatively affected by looting and negatively affected by civil unrest. We want to be one community, not a divided community.
Right. Oh, I can't tell you how refreshing it is to talk to somebody that's
no, that's just the truth.
Over to depravity. No. Jeez.
I don't understand. I genuinely do not understand it, and I try to when I don't understand something, I do try to wrap my head around and say, okay, how can I think this way? We have the same set of facts, but I'm thinking this way, and you're thinking this way. I can't wrap my head around mayors across the country, governors across the country that have national guards, that forces that do not send them in to protect against civil unrest. I don't understand that. Again, we all take a duty as public officials, and in each capacity, you have the legislative capacity, executive capacity, judiciary, but in the executive branch more so than any, because you're the day-to-day operations, boots on ground. Where is that duty to protect life and property? Where have we lost that in this country? Well, it's not lost in Lafayette, not Lafayette, Louisiana.
Gotta like that. Thank you very much.
And if it gets really heated, I'm calling Congressman Clay Higgins.
That's right. You're always supposed to save the hardest question for last. I saw that, was it yesterday or the day before, they were out front, calling for your resignation because of this. What's the most stressful thing for you about this job? When I saw that, I thought, that's got to be a pretty stressful job.
Yeah, I'm juggling all this, and I lose sleep over this, and I wonder, like deep thought, is LSU going to win another national title this year?
Will our governor allow them to play?
Tell me about the economic.
Look, I'm not trying to be a hard, but this is my job. I'm not going to let the tail wag the dog. I mean, I got a job to do.
You've been deployed overseas, right?
I did.
Yeah, so they're not shooting at you yet.
No, not yet. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I can't control that.
I always say, hey, I've had worse.
Yep.
They're not shooting at me.
Right.
I'm okay.
Right. But I mean, look, I do. Look, we're all God's children, and within our bodies, there's a heart and a soul, and there's a lot of passion, a lot of heated passion in this country right now. Maybe there is some underlying stuff that we can iron out as a community and as a country, and that's fine, but let's do that peacefully. You're not going to iron out those wrinkles. You're not going to get any solutions by burning buildings down and breaking property. And just there is a process. You want to change the law, then change the law. Get with your representatives in the legislative body, work in conjunction with the executive body, and make laws. And then we have another branch, judiciary, that determines whether it's fair or not. I mean, look, this process has been around for over 50 years, going on 250 years. Our founding fathers are just brilliant if you think about it. And so there is a way to change things in your community, but doing it unlawfully is not the way to go. And these cities that are doing it, look, I hope it's just a fad, but that's not sustainable. Many political groups want to talk about sustainability and resiliency and all. Well, that's not sustainable to have a community of law that's not lawful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's for sure. It devolves into just barbarism in very, very short order. That's
very well said.
On the Chaz Chop thing, I was up there for the unbelievable.
It's crazy.
Never seen so many disgusting naked men running around in my life.
Nope. Yep. Have you been to Gator?
I thought I'd seen pretty much everything. I was wrong. And the things I hadn't seen, I didn't want to see.
Have you been to Seattle? No, I'm kidding.
I was.
I've never been. I'm just joking.
Yeah,
I hold a grudge against the Seahawks, but that's okay.
Good Lord. I don't follow hockey, so I don't know.
Oh, there you go.
The economic impact of this shutdown. How have your meetings gone, and like what the heck do we do here?
You talking about with COVID-19?
Yeah, COVID.
Yeah, you know,
so much revenue
well, it's been hit. So we're in a unique situation in Lafayette. The previous city parish council, and we also have a new form of government, but the previous city parish council passed a budget that created an $18 million deficit. So when we took office in January, we were already in the hole, $18 million. Then COVID-19 hit. So it was a public health emergency that then turned into an economic emergency because we don't have our business, our private sector flourishing like it's supposed to, which then turned into a fiscal emergency here. The updated forecast 3 or 4 months ago was an additional $10 million loss in revenue. So now, again, we started with 18 that we inherited. Add another 10, we're at $28 million. And it's if anything, it's forced us as a community to ask what is an essential function of government. So there may be something healthy coming out of this. We're in the budget process right now. When we're doing this interview, so we're about to finalize our local budget, and it is balanced. And it starts with, we present it to the councils to consider. But we had to cut just about $30 million in our budget, and the roads are still getting paved. Potholes are still getting filled. Drainage is still being assessed. Our public works department is still funded. Our law enforcement is funded. Our fire departments are funded. My point in all this is, whether it's in local government, state government, or nationally, there's a lot of bloat. And we like to pick on the federal government all the time, but really where the rubber meets the road is locally. And there's a lot of tax dollars that flow locally from local tax dollars. And, our duty is to spend that wisely. The federal government's going to send money, as our congressman knows, they're going to send money to local municipalities. If you have a great relationship with your congressman, you can do good things.
Well, and hopefully this disaster declaration will help out with this particular, tragedy.
You talking about for the hurricane? I didn't hear the first part.
Yeah,
That's always, and this is my first one as far as a hurricane goes. We ramped up about a month ago on something that kind of tinkered out, but yeah. So to answer your question, yes, the federal emergency, the state emergency, and the local emergency will help us from a financial standpoint.
Yeah, that's good. Excellent. Okay. Thank you very much.
The Hot Zone is produced by Amy Holton and Live Fire Media. Copyright 2019.